Henry. And when I came in, I found him undressed sure enough and snug in bed. He rises and stands on the hearthrug. Here the word snug. When Henry entered the room, he found Mr. Abel nicely, comfortably sleeping on the bed. Snug here means comfortable. Mrs. Jordan. Yes, he had a warning. I'm sure of that. Did he know you? Henry. Yes, he spoke to me. Mrs. Jordan. Did he say he had a warning? Henry. No, he said, Henry, would you mind taking my boots off? I forgot before I got into bed. So when Henry entered the room, he is lying. Abel is lying on the bed comfortably. So immediately Jordan questioned him. He might have given some warning to Henry about the health condition of Abel. Henry said he did not give any such warning. Rather, he spoke to Henry. Abel spoke to Henry. What did Abel say? Abel just asked Henry to remove his shoes as he has forgotten to remove them before going to the bed. Mrs. Jordan. He must have been wandering. Henry. No, he had got M on all right. So, Henry is asking, Jordan is asking to Henry, he might have been wandering somewhere. Henry said, no, he is quite okay, quite well, quite all right. Mrs. Latter. And when we had finished dinner, I thought I would take up a bit of something on a tray. He was lying there for all the world as if he was asleep. So I put the tray down on the bureau, correcting herself on the chest of drawers, and went to waken him. A pause. He was quite cold. So here Slatter, as Abel directly went to bed after having the dinner, Slatter thought of giving dinner to her father. So he took the plate of father and entered the room of her father, and she identified him lying sleeping on the bed. So she immediately went near him and tried to wake him up by touching his body, and she felt the body is so cool. Henry. Then I heard Emilia calling for me and I ran upstairs. So she was telling, by the time I went there, when I observed my father sleeping on the bed, I kept the plate on the bureau and immediately she corrected. At that time bureau is there, but now it is not there. Instead of bureau, chest of drawers is there. So immediately she corrected her words. So telling, I kept my plate on the chest of drawers and went near him to wake him up. By the time she touched the body of Abel, it is so cool. So she got frightened and she shouted. Hearing to the shouting of Slatter, Henry came running to the upstairs. Mrs. Slatter. Of course, we could do nothing. Slatter was telling, nothing is there in our hand to do at that time. Mrs. Jordan. He was gone. So, only the reason what they have found there, the man is lying on the bed, and the second one is the body is so cool. So, Slatter came to a conclusion that he is dead. He is gone. Henry. There wasn't any doubt. Henry was telling, there is no doubt the man is dead. Mrs. Jordan. I always knew he had go sudden in the end. Jordan is telling that I always knew all of a sudden one day he will pass away like that. Mrs. Slatter, rising briskly at length in a business-like tone. Well, will you go up and look at him now, or shall we have tea? Slatter is asking now. Well, anyhow, he has passed away. Will you go and look at him once, or do you want to have tea? Mrs. Jordan, what do you say, Ben? Ben, I am not particular. Mrs. Jordan, well then, if the kettle's ready, we may as well have tea first. So when Slatter asked Jordan to go and see Abel once, Jordan said he is not particular. He is not very particular to see him at that time. So finally they came to a conclusion. First they'll have tea and later on they'll go and watch the body of Mr. Abel. Henry, one thing we may as well decide now, the announcement in the papers. Mrs. Jordan, I was thinking of that. What would you put? Generally, whenever any person dies, the people will give just one ad in the newspaper. so that they can inform everybody about the incident happened. So now they are also thinking about the newspaper ad, what they have to give. Ben, the drunken old beggar. Mrs. Slater, after the residence of his daughter, 235 Upper Cornbank Street, etc. Slater is telling what they can give in the ad. Slater is telling the address of the house in which they are living now. Henry, you wouldn't care for a bit of poetry. Mrs. Jordan, I like Never Forgotten. It's refined. So here they are discussing about what the title they can give in the ad in the newspaper. Along with the address, they can give some title. So here Jordan suggested one title. He said Never Forgotten. So above the advertisement, they can give one poetry or just one line indicating the message. They wanted to give it as Never Forgotten. Here Jordan is telling this line is refined. What is the meaning of the word refined? So here the meaning of the word refined is very good. He says, according to the opinion of Mr. Jordan, the phrase never forgotten, the line never forgotten is very good. Henry, yes, but it's rather soon for that. Ben, you couldn't very well have forgotten him the day after. So Ben is telling why Jordan has mentioned like that, why he has mentioned like that, because immediately after the death of a person, we cannot forget him all of a sudden the next day itself. So he wanted to give the phrase never forgotten. Mrs. Slater, I always fancy a loving husband, a kind father and a faithful friend. Slater suggested one more line telling that her father is a loving husband, a kind father and a faithful friend. Ben, do you think that's right? So Ben immediately questioned Slater, do you think it's right to give such a lengthy title? Henry, I don't think it matters whether it's right or wrong. Here Henry is telling that they don't want to worry whether it is right or wrong. They want to give the line in such a way where the line reflects their inner feelings. Mrs. Jordan, no, it's more for the look of the thing. Jordan is telling that not only our feelings, even we have to consider the look also, how it will be if by giving certain title. Henry, I saw a verse in the evening newspaper yesterday. Proper poetry. It was rhymed. He gets the paper and reads. Despised and forgotten by some you may be, but the spot that contains you is scared to be. So according to Henry, what he did on the previous day, he saw one line in the newspaper. So immediately he brought the newspaper and he was reading the line for everybody. In the line, it is given like this: despised. So what is the meaning of the word despised? D-E-S-P-I-S-E-D. So despised means hated. Despised and forgotten by some you may be, but the spot that contains you is scared to be. Scared. So another word for which we need to know the meaning, scared means feared. So this is the line what is suggested by Mr. Henry. Mrs. Jordan, that will never do. You don't say scared to be. Henry, it's in the paper. Mrs. Slater, you would not say it if you were speaking properly, but it's different in poetry. So they are taking immediately Mrs. Jordan has taken a negative meaning out of the word, and Slater and Henry are trying to convince Jordan, telling that the poetic meaning will be different. Henry, poetic license, you know. So Henry is telling that the poetic license. What is the meaning of the word poetic license? Freedom to change facts or rules of language. In poetry, few words we use in such a way where the meaning will be quite opposite. So the same point is mentioned by Henry here. Mrs. Jordan, no, that will never do. We want a verse that says how much we loved him and refers to all his good qualities and says what a heavy loss we have had. Jordan is telling that no, that is not good to give such a poetic line. The line should reflect the love what we have on him and how much of pain we have because the loss of the person, and it should reflect as if we are not going to forget him forever. So this is the idea of Mr. Jordan. Mrs. Jordan is telling that the line should reflect their feelings. Mrs. Slater, you want a whole poem? That will cost a good lot. So when they give any ad in the newspaper, every line need to be counted, because the people will charge for every line. So here Slater is telling that, do you want us to give the complete poetry? Then we need to pay so much of money. Mrs. Jordan, well, we'll think about it after tea. And when we'll look through these bits of things and make a list of them. There's all the furniture in his room. Jordan is telling, okay, we'll think about the ad later on and we'll have tea now. After the tea, we'll think and decide about the things what are there in his room. What we have to do about the things what are there in father's room. Henry, there is no jewelry and valuables of that sort. Mrs. Jordan, except his gold watch. He promised that to our Jimmy. Mrs. Slater, promised to your Jimmy? I never heard of that. Mrs. Jordan, oh, but he did, Amelia. When he was living with us, he was very fond of Jimmy. Now here rises the point. As their father is dead up, they are not worried or they are not bothered to go and see even the body also. Instead of that, they are discussing all the other things, and finally they reached to the belongings of her father. So finally the two sisters, they started discussing about the things of the father, and there comes the topic of the golden watch of their father. Immediately when the point of golden watch comes, Mrs. Jordan is telling that when Abel used to live with their family, now Abel is with Mrs. and Mr. Slater. But previously, before coming to their house, Abel used to live with Mr. and Mrs. Jordan. So what Jordan is mentioning here, she is telling that when he was living with us, he promised that he will give that gold watch to our kid. And what is the name of that kid? He is none other than Jimmy. So when Jordan mentioned like this, Slater is questioning, promised to your Jimmy? I never heard of that. Slater is telling that when our father promised your Jimmy that he will give the golden watch, I never heard anything of that. Mrs. Jordan, oh, but he did, Amelia. When he was living with us, he was very fond of Jimmy. So Jordan is telling, no, you don't know that. When he was living with us, he likes Jimmy very much. He used to love Jimmy very much. So at that time, he promised Jimmy that he will give his golden watch to him. Mrs. Slater, well amazed. I don't know. Again Slater said, I don't know when he had promised like that. Ben, anyhow, there is his insurance money. Have you got the receipt for the premium he paid this morning? Ben questioned now about the money, the insurance money, what he had paid about the premium that morning. As Slater already mentioned in the previous lines itself that in the morning father is merry, he is very joyful. He got ready and went out to pay the insurance premium. So recollecting that, Ben now he is asking Slater whether they got the premium receipt, the receipt of the premium what Abel had paid in that morning. Mrs. Slater, I have not seen it. Slater is telling, I did not see any receipt. Victoria, Mother, I don't think Grandpa went to pay his insurance this morning. Immediately Victoria is telling that, I don't think so that grandfather has gone to pay the insurance. Mrs. Slater, he went out. Mrs. Slater is repeatedly telling that in the morning her father went out. Victoria, yes, but he did not go into the town. He met old Mr. Tattersall down the street and they went off past St. Philip's Church. Victoria is telling that it's true that he went out, but he did not go to pay the premium. Instead of that, down the street, Abel met Mr. Tattersall and both of them they went to Philip's Church. Mrs. Slater, to the Ringo Bells, I'll be bound. So here Ringo Bell means it is the name of a restaurant. Slater immediately questioned, did they go to a restaurant, Ringo Bells? Ben, the Ringo Bells? Mrs. Slater, the public house. So Ringo Bells is a public house. What is a public house? It is a pub, a place where it is licensed to sell alcoholic beverages. It is a public house that John Sharp's widow keeps. He is always hanging about there. Oh, if he hasn't paid it. Slater is telling that there only one widow stays and her name is John Sharp's. So this person is wandering in that place regularly. They thought that he did not pay the bill of the things what he used there. That's why he might have gone there. Ben, do you think he hasn't paid it? Was it overdue? Mrs. Slater, I should think it was overdue. Ben immediately questioned, is it overdue? He did not pay the money. Slater also confirmed that maybe it is overdue. He did not pay the money. Mrs. Jordan, something tells me he is not paid it. I have a warning. I know it. He is not paid it. Jordan is telling definitely that is the reason. Definitely he did not pay the bill and that is the reason why he is going to that restaurant frequently. Ben, the drunken old beggar. See, previously, first time when Slater was telling everyone that their father has gone out to pay the premium, they felt that he is a great person, great man. But now when they realize that he did not pay the bills properly and they are overdue, so Ben is scolding Abel like this, the drunken old beggar. He's telling them as a old beggar. Mrs. Jordan, he's done it on purpose just to annoy us. Finally, they came to a conclusion that this man Abel did not pay the insurance premium. So they started scolding him, and they also have come to a conclusion that wantedly he did it to annoy them. What is the meaning of the word annoy? Annoy means getting anger. So make angry. Here the word annoy means make anger. Angry. So just to make them angry, he did not pay the insurance. This is said by Mrs. Jordan. Mrs. Slater, after all I have done for him, having to put up with him in the house these 3 years, it's nothing sort of swindling. Slater is telling that, see how many things I have done for the father. For the past 3 years, I kept him in the house and I'm taking care of everything. But it's nothing sort of swindling. Here the word, meaning of the word swindling. Swindling means deceiving. Deceiving means cheating. She is telling that, see, I have done so many things for him in the past 3 years, but he deceived me. He cheated me without paying the premium of his insurance. Mrs. Jordan, I had to put up with him for 5 years. Immediately Jordan is telling, he stayed with you only for 3 years, but with me he lived for 5 years. Mrs. Slater, and you were trying to turn him over to us all the time. Slater is telling, okay, he stayed 5 years with you, but all the time you were trying to send him to us. I know what you have done. So this is the way both the sisters are discussing. Henry, but we don't know for certain that he is not paid the premium. So when these sisters are talking like that, immediately Henry interfered and telling that it is not confirmed whether he paid the premium or not. Mrs. Jordan, I do. It's come over me all at once that he hasn't. Jordan is telling, I know everything. In my mind, my sixth sense is telling that he did not pay the premium. Mrs. Slater, Victoria, run upstairs and fetch that bunch of keys that's on your grandpa's dressing table. So Slater, what she did, she immediately instructed Victoria to go to upstairs and get the bunch of keys which are kept on the table. Victoria, with less courage, means timidly, in grandpa's room. So Victoria, as she's a small girl, they knew very well what is there in grandpa's room. One dead body is there. That's why she got frightened. So timidly means without any courage, she is telling, in grandpa's room. Mrs. Slater, yes. Victoria, I don't like to. Immediately Victoria rejected to go to grandpa's room. Why? She got frightened. She is afraid of going there. Mrs. Slater, don't talk so silly. There is no one can hurt you. Victoria goes out reluctantly. We'll see if he's locked the receipt up in the bureau. Slater is telling that What Slater asked Victoria to do now? She asked Victoria to go to the upstairs and bring the keys. Which keys she is asking to bring? She is asking to bring the keys of the bureau. Because previously the bureau is used to be in that room only. But as they carried it down, she has forgotten everything and she is telling directly, we'll check whether the receipt is there in the bureau. And to open the bureau, she asked Victoria to go and fetch the keys. Even though reluctantly, means even though she doesn't like going there, reluctantly she went there. What is the meaning of the word reluctant? Reluctantly. So reluctantly means unwillingly. Unwillingly. Ben, in where? In this thing. He rises and examines it. So Ben immediately caught what Slater said. Immediately he rised and he is telling that, is it the receipt there in the bureau? The bureau is there near them. So he got up and he started examining the bureau. Mrs. Jordan also rising. Where did you pick that up, Amelia? It's new. Since last I was here, they examined closely. Jordan is telling, from where did you bring this? I think it is new. Last time when I come to your house, it is not there in your house. Telling like this, Jordan started examining that. Mrs. Slater, oh Henry, picked it up one day. Slater is telling, okay, one day I purchased this bureau. Mrs. Jordan, I like it. It's artistic. Did you buy it at an auction? Mrs. Jordan is telling that it is artistic. Which is artistic? The bureau which they are examining now. Mrs. Jordan is telling that it is artistic. Artistic means full of art. So Jordan got a doubt and asked Slater, did you buy it in an auction? Henry, hey, where did I buy it, Amelia? Mrs. Slater, yes, at an auction. Immediately Henry is asking, where did I buy this? And Slater told to Henry that they bought it in the auction. Ben, oh, second hand. Mrs. Jordan, don't show your ignorance. Ben, all artistic things are second hand. Look at those old masters. Mrs. Jordan is telling, when Ben questioned, is it second hand, as they have already mentioned that they purchased it in auction. So Ben questioned, is it second hand? Immediately Jordan is telling, all artistic and old things, they'll get only second hand only. See how the artistic work inscript on the bureau. Victoria, mother. Mrs. Slater, what is it, child? Victoria, Grandpa is getting up. Ben, what? So you know very well, where is Victoria? She went into Grandpa's room to fetch the keys. So from there, frightened, running back Victoria, crying, telling that Grandpa is getting up. Mrs. Slater, what do you say? Victoria, Grandpa is getting up. Mrs. Jordan, the child is so crazy. Here crazy means mad. Crazy means mad. Victoria is telling, coming back running, she is telling everyone that the grandpa is getting up. These people couldn't believe what Victoria is telling. That's why they are telling that this girl is so crazy. Mrs. Slater, don't talk so silly. Don't you know your grandfather's dead? Slater immediately telling to Victoria, why are you talking like that? Why are you so silly? Don't you know that he is dead? A dead person, how can he get up? Victoria, no, he is getting up. I saw him. Even after Slater say like that also, Victoria with confirmation she is telling that grandpa is getting up. They are transfixed with amazement. Ben and Mrs. Jordan left of table. Victoria clings to Mrs. Slater, right of the table, Henry near fireplace. So this is the placing of the people in the room. All of them got transfixed. Transfixed in the sense they got fixed to the ground. Mrs. Jordan, you had better go up and see for yourself, Amelia. Jordan asked Amelia, do one thing, you go up and see what is happening there. Mrs. Slater, here come with me, Henry. Henry draws back terrified. Ben suddenly, hist, listen. So when Jordan asked Slater to move, Slater is asking Henry also to come with her. When they are in this discussion, some sound they heard. We'll see what is that sound. They look at the door. A slight chuckling is heard outside. The door opens, revealing an old man clad in a faded but gay dressing gown. He is in his stockings feet. Although over 70, he is vigorous and well colored. His bright, malicious eyes twinkle under his heavy, reddish grey eyebrows. He is obviously either Grandfather Abel Merriweather or else his ghost. So here we heard a sound. Immediately when these people who got seriously got involved in a discussion, they turned back. They started paying attention towards the sound. Here they saw an old man, even though old, vigorous and in a colorful dress, coming down from the upstairs. Here few words were used to describe the old man. The new words here are revealing. R-E-V-A-L-I-N-G. So the word meaning revealing here is showing. An old man and clad. The word clad means cloth. Faded. Faded, discolored. Discolored. And stockinged. Stockinged. In long socks. In long socks. Vigorous. Strong. Malicious. Malicious means mischievous. Obviously. Obviously means clearly. So here if you can analyze these words, you can get a clear description of Mr. Abel, the grandfather. So Abel, he is coming revering means showing. So what type of appearance is coming? His cloth, and the cloths are discolored, and he is wearing a long socks. He is very strong and he is having a mischievous look, and very clearly we can see that it is none other than Mr. Abel Merriweather. Abel. What's the matter with little Vicky? He sees Ben and Mrs. Jordan. Hello, what brings you here? How is yourself, Ben? So Abel immediately when he's coming to the downstairs is asking what happened to Vicky. Because previously whenever she saw her grandfather, she never behaved like this how she behaved now. Because now she was thinking that he is dead. So she got horrified when she saw her grandfather getting up from the bed. That is the actual situation of Victoria. But Abel, he doesn't know anything. That's why he got a dilemma in questioning what happened to Victoria and why is she behaving like that. When he is telling like this, he observed Jordan, Mr. and Mrs. Jordan there. So they are asking what Ben is doing there. Abel thrusts his hand at Ben, who skips back smartly and retreats to a safe distance below the sofa. Telling what Ben is doing here, this old man goes near to Ben and keeps his hand on the shoulder of Mr. Ben. Ben immediately moves a little back and keeps himself safe in a distance. Mrs. Slater, approaching Abel gingerly. Grandfather, is that you? She pokes him with her hand to see if he is solid. Mrs. Slater, coming near to her father, she is unable to get the conclusion that Really it is her father or not? That's why in a dilemma, coming near to him, she is poking him with her finger, touching the body and observing really he is a human being or not. Abel, irritated by the whispering, he got irritated, he got angry. Of course it's me. Don't do that, Melia. What the devil do you mean by this tomfoolery? So here Abel is telling he got irritated with the behavior of his members of the family as they are coming and poking with a finger and unable to believe their eyes, their dilemma question mark faces. Seeing this, Abel got irritated and he is telling to Emilia that of course he is me, it is me. Don't do that. He is asking Slater not to behave like that. And he is telling, what the devil do you mean by this tomfoolery? Here tomfoolery means foolish behavior, the way they are behaving. Tomfoolery means foolish behavior. So they are behaving so foolishly in the point of view of Mr. Abel. Mrs. Slater, to the others, he is not dead. So now Mrs. Slater, after poking him with a finger, she came to a conclusion that he is not dead. That's why she is telling to the remaining people that he is not dead. Ben, doesn't seem like that. Still, Ben is still there in dilemma. He is telling that it doesn't seem like that to him. So he is thinking that the ghost of Mr. Abel has arrived there. Abel, you have kept away long enough, Lizzie, and now you have come. You don't seem over pleased to see me. Abel, he is telling that from a long time, Jordan and Ben, they did not come to their house. Elizabeth and Ben, they did not come to their house. So after a long time, they are seeing their father. So they should feel happy. But Ben did not saw any such type of feeling in their face. So he is questioning them. After a long time you see me. Seeing me, you should feel happy. Are you not feeling happy? Mrs. Jordan, you took us by surprise, father. Are you keeping quite well? Jordan is telling that we got surprised to seeing you. Are you well? Are you okay? Jordan is questioning her father. Abel, trying to catch the words. Hey, what? Mrs. Jordan, are you quite well? So Abel is trying to catch the words, the inner meaning of their words. So he asked, what are you questioning me? So again Mrs. Jordan posed the same question. She was asking him, are you quite well? Abel, I am right enough but for a habit of a headache. Abel is telling, I am quite alright. I don't have any problem. I just got headache. I wouldn't mind betting that I am not the first in this house to be carried to the cemetery. He is telling that if it is needed, he want to bet that he is not the first person who is going to die. I always think Henry there looks none too healthy. So Abel is telling that I am quite healthy and quite alright. I am not going to pass away soon. I think it will be Henry because he doesn't look healthy. Mrs. Jordan, well, I never. Abel crosses to the armchair. Henry gets out of his way to the front of the table. Abel, Amelia, what the dickens did I do with my new slippers? Abel, when Abel is coming near the chair, Henry moved and he gave place to Abel. So while in this moment, Abel observed the slippers what Henry has worn. So actually those slippers are Abel's slippers. Slater, as she thought that her father is dead, so she gave the slippers to Henry. So seeing the slippers, Abel is telling like this, Amelia, what the dickens did I do with my new slippers? Here the word dickens means D-I-C-K-E-N-S, Dickens. Dickens means it's an informal way of saying that you are annoyed or surprised. Annoyed or surprised. It is an informal way of telling that you are annoyed or surprised. Abel is telling that he got angry seeing his slippers with Henry. Mrs. Slatter, she is totally confused. Now she is not able to understand what she should say. Aren't they by the hearth, grandfather? So Slatter is telling, I think your slippers are there near the fireplace. Abel, I don't see them. Observing Henry trying to remove the slippers, why you have got M on Henry? When Abel is asking about the slippers, Henry is trying to remove them from his feet. So Abel questioned, why, what are you doing with my slippers? Mrs. Slatter promptly, I told him to put them on to stretch them. They were that new and hard. Now, Henry. Mrs. Slatter snatches the slippers from Henry and gives them Abel, who puts them on and sits in armchair. Slatter promptly what she did, she immediately snatched the slippers from Henry and gave them back to her father. Mrs. Jordan to Ben, well, I don't call that delicate. Stepping into a dead man's shoes in such hasty. So the entire scene is being observed by Ben. So finally, Jordan and Ben, after observing to that, Jordan is telling to Ben, I don't find all this so silly. They are stepping into the dead man's shoes, means they are trying to grab all the things of my father. So Jordan told to Ben. Victoria, oh grandpa, I am so glad you are not dead. So as Victoria is a small girl, she may not be knowing that much of politics, what the parents are playing. She is so frank and fair. That's why she directly questioned grandfather, telling that she feels very happy as her grandfather is not dead. Mrs. Slatter, hold your tongue, Victoria. So immediately Slatter is trying to correct Victoria, telling don't talk like that. Abel, hey, what's that? Who is gone dead? Abel is asking, what is that you are speaking? Who is that gone dead? Mrs. Slatter, loudly, Victoria says she is sorry about your head. Here Victoria already mentioned that she is feeling happy as her grandfather is not dead. Now Slatter is trying to correct the sentence made by her daughter. So she is telling that she is concerned about your head, because Abel has already mentioned that he got headache. Slatter is trying to convert the topic. Abel, thank you, Vicky, but I am feeling better. So Abel, he believed the words said by Slatter and he is thanking Vicky, means Victoria, as she is so concerned, and he is telling that now he is feeling better. Mrs. Slatter to Mrs. Jordan, he is so fond of Victoria. Slatter is telling to Jordan that her father is so fond of, her father likes Victoria very much. Mrs. Jordan to Mrs. Slatter, yes, he is fond of her Jimmy too. Jordan immediately, she is giving a retort to Slatter, telling that yes, father likes Jordan, Jimmy also very much. Jimmy is the son of Jordan and Ben, whereas Victoria is the daughter of Slatter and Henry. Mrs. Slatter, you would better ask him if he promised your Jimmy his gold watch. So as the discussion went on previously about the gold watch of their father, it is mentioned that the father promised them that he will give the gold watch to Mr. Jimmy. So now Slatter is reminding Jordan, asking Jordan to question, means ask the father, did really he promise that he is going to give his gold watch to Jimmy? Mrs. Jordan, I couldn't just now. I don't feel equal to it. Abel, why? Ben, you are in mourning, and Lizzie too, and Melia and Henry, and little Vicky, who is gone dead. It's someone in the family. He chuckles. Abel, seeing the condition of all the people, he understands that something bad happened. All the people are feeling very bad. So he is questioning what is the reason behind their mourning, the way of their dressing and their facial expressions, everything revealed to Abel as if they are mourning. So he questioned what happened. Is there anyone in the family is dead? Why all the people there are mourning? This is a question given by Mr. Abel. Mrs. Slatter, no one you know, father, a relation of Ben's. So as he directly questioned the reason of their mourning, they have to say some lie. So that's the reason Mrs. Slatter is telling no one he knew, no one Abel knew. A person who is a relative to Ben has died. Abel. And what relation of Ben's? Mrs. Slater. His brother. Abel questioned, what type of relation does Ben had with the dead person? Immediately Slater is telling that the dead person is Abel's brother. Ben to Mrs. Slater, hang it, I never had one. Actually, Ben, he doesn't have any brothers. So as Slater is going on lying to her father, Ben is telling that I don't have any brother. Abel, dear, dear. And what was his name? Ben. Immediately Abel is questioning, what is the name of the person who is dead? Actually, there is no such person. No one is dead. Slater told some lies. She is lying to her father just to save the situation, just to convert the situation. So immediately Abel, he did not stop listening to that. He started going into the details. So here Abel is questioning Ben, asking what is the name of the person who is dead. Ben, at a loss, he crosses to front of table. Ben, now he did not understand what he should do, what he should say, because no such person is there, and how can he give a name to a person who is not there? So he is totally confused and he is in a state where he cannot say anything. Mrs. Slater, R of table, prompting Frederick. Some of the other name she has to create now. That's why she is telling Frederick. Jordan said Albert. So they said only one person is dead. A single person can't have two names. Two people gave two different names here. Slater gave Frederick and Jordan is telling Albert, as the two names have come. So finally Ben, he need to answer Abel now. So he joined both the names and he gave one more new word. What did he say? Fred Al Isaac is the name given by Ben. Abel, Isaac. And where did your brother Isaac die? So again the man is going on asking questions. Initially he asked about the name of the dead person. Somehow they managed and they gave one name. Now he is asking the place where the person is dead. Ben, in Australia. Something he tried to say and finally he concluded the place name as Australia. Abel, dear, dear. He had been older than you. Hey, Abel is asking, is he older than you? Ben, yes, he is older by 5 years. The person who is dead is older to Mr. Ben by 5 years. Abel, are you going to the funeral? Funeral is the last treatment what they do to the person who is dead. So Abel is asking Ben whether he is going to attend the funeral or not. Ben said, yes, I am going to attend the funeral. Mrs. Slater and Mrs. Jordan, no. Immediately Ben is telling yes, whereas Slater and Jordan, they are telling no, because no such thing is going to happen. Ben, no, of course not. So immediately Ben also covered his word from yes to no. Finally he said no. He retires to L. Abel, rising. Well, I suppose we have only been waiting for me to begin tea. I am feeling hungry. As these people all, instead of going and seeing the dead body, initially they thought of having the tea. So all the kettle, cups, everything are ready there. Seeing that, Abel is telling that we'll go and have a tea. Maybe you people are waiting for me to have the tea. As I have come here and I am so hungry, let us have the tea.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.